Sean Doyle from Optics EQ, and today's video race of the day is Aqueduct Race 3, December the 9th, Thursday. And so what we're going to look at is this claiming event, non-winners 3 lifetime. And you can just take a look at the plot fit is green. That's a good thing. The contention is a flame. So there looks like there's going to be pace contention in this race. And when you actually look at the plot, you can see the 6, 8, 9, 5, and 4 mostly to the left. They're all in quadrant 1 on the standard plot, so there's going to be some pace there. The first thing I notice is the 4. He's at E. That means he kind of needs the lead to do his best running. He looks vulnerable. He's below the 6 and 8 in terms of the second call. He's to the right of a lot of horses, and he's a medium-sized circle. So not a lot going for him when we evaluate the early pace. So he's a horse I'm going to kind of stand against. The other horse that I thought was interesting was the number 8, since this is the morning line favorite at 8-5, Baba. Doesn't seem to have an advantage over both the 6, who looks higher in the second call to him, and then the 9, who was leftmost more than him, and also a square. The 9's a little hard to see. I'm just going to highlight his entry in the table. You could just see that kind of that blue outline. He's kind of behind the 4 on the plot. But you can see, to me, just in early evaluation, I would want to be leaning 6 and 9 and try to look at the differences between those two in form. But just first blush, it looks like the 8 might be a little bit vulnerable with that plot. The race, because of the contention, could set up for someone off the pace, and we got 4 squares, so that's pretty good. The 1, 2, 3, and the 7. So we'll evaluate those horses when we get to the grid. So let's shoot over to the grid, open it up. First thing I like to do is I just want to look at the last 45 days here and see what's going on. There's one horse that speed figure kind of jumps out. It's the number 7. But notice that was at non-2 lifetime at Laurel. So I'd be a little bit careful there. So, but it looks like everyone's kind of been in the mid to middle 70s, right? So it looks like the range to win this typical race is 82 to 90. So we can project improvement on any of those. They're going to get there. So let's just kind of go through the ones that we talked about on the grid. We're going to start off with the horses that are on the pace. And let's look at the number 6, Guns Blazing. This is a horse that's coming off, kind of a mini layoff, 48 days, and is dropping. This horse has shown in the past, been able to duel and run good races. This horse ran a 74 last time, dueling against better horses, but notice this horse is capable of running, mid 80s, which is what it takes to win this race. So the upside could be there if this horse improves off of that effort. And there's no reason he can't with the drop. And again, remember, looking at his plot, it looks like he has an advantage. It also looks like, he can duel and also be competitive late. So he's like best of speed here. He dueled, he ran a good third. He dueled, he ran a good third. So this horse is capable of, dueling and, hanging in there. So he looks like a viable contender. And then the other one we looked at early was the 9. It's a little bit, from a class perspective, a little below the 6 because he hasn't run as much. Figures are kind of declining. Last race in the slop at Finger Lakes was kind of a non-effort, so a little bit iffy on him. So if I were to evaluate the early pace runners, 6 seems to be my horse. I'm just going to take a quick look at the 8 because he's the favorite. He's run a couple of good races, but that win was a big race. His kind of outlier Optics fig was at non-2 level. The rest of the races are in the 70s. 6 looks stronger overall to me in this race from an early pace. So that's the early pace runners. Let's evaluate the late pace runners. Let's look at the 1, Adeline. This horse has been off 85 days. This is his second off a layoff. Ran a 74, going 2 turns at Finger Lakes, got into traffic, got shuffled back, then kind of ran a decent, even effort. Not a bad effort. Good kind of race to, build on. And you can see he's another horse that's kind of run in the 80s, 85, 82, 87. So this horse is, again, capable of improving and getting to races that he's already kind of run in terms of speed figures. So a viable contender is the number 1. The number 2 form seems to be kind of going the wrong way. Now, he's had some many excuses the last few times, but Just don't like to see that decline in speed figures, then a layoff, then a drop. So form cycle wise, a little eerie of him. The three is a little bit more lightly raced and has kind of run some competitive races. Is a horse just because this field is kind of crummy and this race may heat up. Maybe somebody you can consider. It just looks too slow, but maybe someone you consider for fourth or third to pick up some pieces. Now the last race was terrible, but that was 2 turns, couldn't keep up. Back sprinting. I don't know. It's just not a horse I really want in the win in, but may could clunk up for a fourth or so. And then the 7 was the one we talked about. That last race looks like an outlier. I mean, just never run anything near it. Now, it could be just headed in the right direction or got the right feels at Laurel. Again, we find that Laurel runners are just a cut below. So someone you might want to consider, but I'm kind of against in the win end for that horse too. So for me, just kind of looking at this race, the early pace seems to favor the 6, the later pace the 1. And I'm going to kind of even confirm this using a little technique that I like to use with the grid. I want to filter on dirt races or off the turf races and sprinting, SPR. So that now I've just got the races with dirt and sprinting and these horses' past performances. And then I want to filter on races where I'm anticipating a fast pace. So let's say if their pace was fast. So that means the early race shape would be F. And we have this little thing here, OF4. That's just kind of optics for furlongs race shape. And so now what I have is horses in their past that have been sprinting on the dirt with a fast early race shape. And now I'm going to sort on speed figures just to see. I'm going to show you, look who comes to the top, the 1 and the 6. Okay, so these are the 2 horses that I kind of evaluated on form and plot. And it seems like with this kind of pace scenario, they look the strongest in terms of speed figures. So that's where I'm going to land, 1 and 6. Hopefully this was interesting and showed you another kind of technique to use with optics plot, optics grid, optics notes to try to evaluate the form of these horses and do an analysis, a proper analysis. So I'm John Doyle from Optics EQ. Check us out at opticseq.com. And if you have any questions, let us know. Subscribe to my channel, John Doyle at Optics EQ on YouTube. And hopefully this video is informative.